go pretty deep into this next section.
Yeah.
More than the surface level stuff about her crying, but we need to understand what this bill was and why it's so bad, and what really led to this moment, and why it's important to really understand what's going on here, how this whole process happens, right? So first, I'm going to start with CNN.com, right? This is from CNN.com, and I just got this little snippet here. So House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer created a separate bill to bring to the floor Thursday under suspension, which means this bill bypassed the normal rules required to pass the bill and required 2/3 majority to pass. The final vote, right, for the Iron Dome bill was 420 to 9, with 2 present. 8 Democrats and 1 Republican voted against the bill. The Iron Dome aerial defense system is designed to intercept rockets mid-air by targeting them and firing interceptor missiles to destroy them before they can kill civilians living in Israel. It was initially developed by Israel's defense technology company Rafael, but the system has since been heavily sponsored by the United States. Okay, so that's the gist of what happened, because what happened was they created a separate bill because progressives said, no, we don't want this included in the spending bill. So they created a separate bill. I just want you to know, they somehow, the parliamentarian doesn't matter. They created a separate bill to make sure that Israel got the funding it needed.
Yeah. By the way, I like the fact that we've already provided $1.6 billion for the dome batteries already since 2020 November last year.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That's my whole point. Where they created another bill.
Didn't give them enough.
But anytime you ask money for the working class, they give you excuses, right? So this is why you should be angry. So from Fox, 9 House members, including 8 Democrats, voted for the funding for the Israel Dome missile defense system. Voted against funding for the Israel Iron Dome missile defense system. Okay, so we talked about 420 to 9, and I just wanted to point out who the no votes were. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Cori Bush, Andre Carson, Marie Newman, Raul Grijalva, Chuy Garcia, and Thomas Massie, the only Republican to vote no. Okay, and now I want to go over the bill itself a little bit. I'm just going to point out certain things. By the way, before I go into that, I just want to note, that means that Katie Porter voted yes.
Mm-hmm.
That means that Jamal Bauman voted yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mondaire Jones, yes. All these progressive squad members, Mark Pocan,
Adam Schiff,
all these people, they all vote. Okay, so now it's going to go to the Senate, where obviously it's going to likely pass, because the Senate is even worse than the House. Now, the Appropriations House website, right? This is the Iron Dome supplemental. It was introduced, and this is a press release from September 22nd. And it was introduced by Chair Rosa DeLauro, Democrat from Connecticut. And the legislation provides $1 billion to replace missile interceptors that were used to protect Israeli civilians from Hamas rockets during heavy fighting in May. The funding is consistent with the 2016 Memorandum of Understanding between the United States and Israel, which commits the United States to providing additional assistance to replenish the Iron Dome after periods of fighting to allow Israel to continue to defend itself from attack. Quote, the United States' commitment to the security of our friend and ally Israel is ironclad. Replenishing interceptors used to protect Israel from attacks is our legal and moral responsibility. While this funding would ordinarily be included in a year-end spending package, we are advancing this legislation now to demonstrate Congress's bipartisan commitment to Israel's security as part of the Middle East with lasting peace, because Israel is bringing peace to the Middle East. And so are we, right? This is an extension of the $500 million in annual funding for Israeli cooperative programs, by the way, which was included in the Extending Government Funding and Delivering Emergency Assistance Act that passed the House on September 21st with the support of all House Democrats. So this is called HR 5323, and if you click on it, it'll take you to the bill, the actual bill, which I haven't seen anybody actually cover this bill.
Hey, fam.
But I'm not really gonna go. There's a couple things I wanted to point out on it. And you guys can see there it is. It talks about the supplemental appropriations ending in September 30, 2022, which means this is a year. I mean, this has happened before, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled that the following sums are appropriated, blah, blah, blah. It talks about the Department of Defense procurement, and it talks about the $1 billion to remain available until September 2024. It goes on and on. Eventually, it gets to the point of where it mentions the specifically under the procurement defense wide, right? And it says right here, for an additional amount for procurement, and it's in the picture of the folder. For an additional amount for procurement defense-wide, $1 billion to remain available until September 30th, 2024 for the Secretary of Defense to provide to the government of Israel for the procurement of the Iron Dome defense system to counter short-range rocket threats, provided that such funds shall be provided to address emergent requirements in support of the Operation Guardian of the Walls. Okay, so a lot of people were saying this is a defensive act. It's just Israel defending itself. What is Operation Guardian of the Walls? Okay, so let's go to Operation Guardian of the Walls. And this is from the IDF website, who's going to be pretty honest about what it is, because they really don't like Palestinians, right? So Operation Guardian of the Walls. Okay, the beginning of Operation Guardian of the Walls was marked by barrages of rockets fired toward Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, by terror organizations in the Gaza Strip on May 10th, 2021 at 6:03 p.m. Over the course of the next 12 days, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the PIJ, two terror organizations within the Gaza Strip, fired almost 4,400 rockets at Israel. Approximately 680 of these rockets misfired and fell within the Gaza Strip, causing Palestinian casualties. You see that? The rockets caused Palestinian casualties, not the Israeli forces. Okay, so these rockets were fired indiscriminately at Israeli civilians. Israel made great efforts to protect the civilians via a combination of bombs, shelters, and the deployment of the Iron Dome aerial defense system, which successfully intercepted 90% of the rockets fired at its civilians. Again, Palestine is an open-air prison. They don't have these rockets. In response to Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians, the IDF struck over 1,500 terror targets, including launch sites, command and control centers, and weapons storage sites, including civilians. Among these targets, the IDF struck many kilometers of Hamas's extensive tunnel system, meaning schools and hospitals. This tunnel network enabled military training, mobility, storage of weaponry, the capacity to carry out and manage military operations without exposing terror organization operatives. The IDF also neutralized hundreds of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terror operatives. Overall, we succeeded in our mission to defend Israel, fight terror, and ensure the security of Israeli civilians. They talk about what Hamas is and the Islamic Jihad and all of that. And then they said during the course of Operation Guardian of the Walls, Hamas directed attacks at civilians with rockets, drones, anti-attack missiles, and more. Throughout the operation, IDF soldier staff Sergeant Omar Talib of the National Brigade was killed by an anti-tank missile fired by the PIJ while defending Israel's border. And so in order to protect Israeli civilians from this ongoing wave of terrorism, the IDF combined pinpoint intelligence with sophisticated military capabilities to cripple Hamas's military infrastructure. And this was difficult due to Hamas's strategy of conducting deep within civilian neighborhoods and structures in the Gaza Strip. So they're like okaying their bullshit.
It's saying that it was tough because there was among civilians, but didn't stop them.
Yeah,
it was tough, but
yeah, exactly.
Collateral damage, fam. Couple babies.
So at the very end, the purpose of the Operation Guardian of the Walls was to restore the security and ensure the safety of Israel and its civilians. By combining military defense capabilities with proactive military strikes, the IDF was able to destroy a large amount of Hamas's weapons and manufacturing capabilities, which they claim were under schools and hospitals. That's what they claim. So that's what they bombed. In order to bring an enduring calm to the people of Israel, the IDF will continue to defend the state of Israel against any and all threats. Israel's an apartheid state. It's an illegal occupation. Palestine is an open-air prison. These people are living in dismal conditions. The United States is funding this. The United States is fucking funding this overwhelmingly. They overwhelmingly passed this legislation.
Fam, your point was that it was supposedly this is for defense, but right here it says that it's proactive military strikes.
Exactly.
That's offensive, yeah.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
That's how they send it. The Iron Dome. It's protection. It's playing defense from the aggressors of Hamas and stuff like that. And I just want to say right off the bat, like, guys, I'm sick and tired of this argument still going on in the public as it's supposed to be like it's about religion and whatnot and using being anti-Semitic and everything like that. It's nothing to do with this. This is a geopolitical nation state. A lot of people feel that's illegitimate, that are using our weapons of mass destruction to kill women and children all the time in an open air prison. And I want to reiterate that what Fam said. It's an open air prison. They're not allowed to leave, not by land, not by sea.
They control
have to
the
stay
water.
there. They have terrible water. They're being starved out.
They
and yet
control the energy. They don't have electricity, really.
The people that are left are mostly young teenage men, right? Women and children. That's it. Because they've basically killed off all the men in battle. Yeah. And when they talk about these rockets that Hamas and the PIJ launch, those are defense against what Israel's doing. Israel's constantly bombing them, so they put out rockets. We're not funding Palestinians with an Iron Dome for them. They don't have the military capabilities and the technology to fight. So what they do is they send rockets, and they target these rockets specifically to Israeli military. They don't target civilians. Where on the other hand, you have the targeting of civilians, of schools, of hospitals. I've had people on this show to talk about that. People who are in West Asia, people who understand the geopolitics of what's happening. This is it's undeniable what's happening right in Palestine.
Yeah. And what about the whole argument too as well? Like, separate the argument. Okay, let's say whatever's happening over there is happening over there. Why are we funding this?
Exactly.
We have people starving on the streets here. You know, I put up a tweet the other day and I said, why the hell do we keep on supporting country after country after country like Israel and stuff when we haven't even given reparations to our American descendants of slave here? And we have more and more people of color ending up on the streets starving, and we're sending billions of dollars across seas. Why?
Aren't you mad? I thought it was about America first for a lot of people who are on the right? How is this America first? This is Israel first. They have healthcare.
Yes.
They have a higher standard of living than we do. They have a higher life expectancy.
They have less homeless.
They have less homeless. They have all this technology. Where's some of that for us? If you want to make it about you, where the hell is that for the American population? It's nowhere. Meanwhile, the money is being used to kill people, women and children mainly, in Palestine. And of course, this is all a precursor to what was going on in Congress, because this is why people should be mad at the squad. This is why. Look, the vote, she didn't need to change her fucking vote. It passed overwhelmingly, right? So that goes both ways. That means that I guess if her vote wouldn't have made a difference anyway. But really, what the crux of this is, if she's already doing this in a vote that in this case didn't matter, in the case of the police funding, it did, then what's going to happen if AOC runs for office again, because she will, and she has more power? How is her voting going to be if it's already been this dismal, right? She doesn't have the integrity to really say no on this, and then she cries about it. So we're going to go over that. But I just thank you for bringing that up. Is that from
Gaza?
Gaza Fights for Freedom. Okay. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, what about AOC here?
Okay. So.
Because this thing was very confusing. Because look at the vote was overwhelming. Why did she have to change her vote anyways?
Exactly.
So it was just so weird.
So RT did this overwriting, coverage, crocodile tears. AOC breaks down after crying. Down crying after withdrawing no vote on funding Israel missile defense at last minute. And so after changing her vote from no to a non-committal present at the last moment, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was seen crying as the House passed funding for Israel's dome missile defense system, $1 billion. We've talked about that. So I just wanted to point out, and I have the video on the next tweet, I believe. Yeah, okay, so we're going to go through this video, and if you can zoom in, that would be great, Johnny. So this is from Nicole Alexander Fisher that put up this video, which made it really easy.
Great work, Nicole.
Very easy for people to access.
Go follow her Twitter.
So this was on the vote for the Iron Dome funding. Rep. Ocasio-Cortez voted no. But then there was a minute-long interaction between her and Speaker Pelosi where Rep. Ocasio-Cortez seemed visibly distraught, which preceded her vote switch to present. So let's go ahead and watch it. It's going to be at the corner of left at the bottom. You're going to see it. If you can. Yeah, that's Pelosi in pink. I forget who this woman in the blue is. But then AOC, you can't see her off camera. Then she kind of comes in camera. So. Yeah. No, there's no sound, so we can talk over it. So just let it play. You can see them. can see them right there. There's Pelosi.
Yeah.
At this point, they had said that she had said she was voting no, along with several other members of the squad. The OG squad, right? They all voted no, except her. And you'll see Pelosi's arms flail in a minute. There they are. Discussion. This has happened before, by the way, and I'll point that out in a minute.
Oh, she's waving now.
There she's waving. And when she well, she'll raise her hand in a minute, but not yet. So, Cori Bush. Discussing. And it's towards the end where this starts to. People are watching. There she is. See? It's like Pelosi saying, you can't do that. You're not allowed. All right. So the second video beneath it is where you start seeing more.
No, like in the thread.
In the
there's
thread.
Another one right below it.
Yeah.
Interaction continued, it says. There it is. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, you can see the crying here and the hand over the face, I think.
Yeah, she's slightly off camera, so you can't. Mostly off camera. And
No, she's right there now.
there.
She's doing one of these.
Yeah. Pelosi's like, nope. So I just want to point this out. If it's not about the votes, really,
What is it about?
then it's about something she's been promised. Right? And I'm going to get into that. Likely. All right.
There she goes, changing her vote.
Yep. She's raising her hand and is going to change her vote now. Because they're asking, do you have any last minute? There she is, last minute changes. So she raises her hand. And is going to change her vote. So that's essentially the interaction that happened, right? So yeah. So you can see the numbers, not even close, right? So why the hell would she do that?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this vote, the yeas are 420, the nays are 9, with 2 recorded as present, 2/3 being in the affirmative. The rules are suspended, the bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
So it's passed.
And $1 billion of our dollars, just like that, in addition to the every year funding of Israel for their defense system to kill Palestinians
Yep.
when they're just protecting themselves, goes along throughout the night while we suffer here at home without education, without health care, without any fucking housing whatsoever. But yeah, sure, we need to do it because they're their only ally in that region,
Hold
right?
on. Yeah. Johnny, I wanted to read that according to Rep. Dingle part of the tweet. According to Rep. Dingle, who is likely the woman in blue, but I can't see her face. I believe that is her. She and Rep. Ocasio-Cortez were both upset because the Iron Dome funding was not brought through committee. She also cites the large Jewish community in AOC's district. So this is what she said. Democratic Rep. Debbie Dingell of Michigan, who was with Ocasio-Cortez, said that she and Ms. Ocasio-Cortez were upset because of the way the Iron Dome's funding was brought to the House floor, saying how it never went through committee. It's very upsetting to people like she and I when it's not in the regular order. There were a lot of different opinions. Ms. Dingell, who voted yes on the legislation, noting how Ms. Ocasio-Cortez has a significant Jewish community in her district. The way that it was handled, and several of us made it well known to leadership, it should have never been brought up that way, and it should never been out of regular order. Like I said in the beginning of the show, of this segment, they created a separate bill because the progressives didn't want it included in the spending bill.
And Pelosi, being the Speaker of the House, brought it to the floor.
Steny Hoyer. Yeah.
Well, Steny Hoyer did, and then what happened is
Steny Hoyer requests it, and then Pelosi's
and then Pelosi put it up for a vote.
But
Yes.
they skipped the proper protocol,
going
as
through
I said in the
committee
beginning, of going through committee. Exactly. So okay, so AOC has a large Jewish district, so she's obviously pandering to this. Now, the next thing I believe I'm gonna
designated by Mr. Lawson of Florida, pursuant to House Resolution 8, I inform the House that Mr. Lawson will vote nay on House Resolution 483 amendments. He votes nay.
Okay, there she is. You guys can see her
I inform the House that
crying and hugging Pramila Jayapal. Pramila Jayapal.
That's somebody else.
Oh.
I think it's Barbara Lee. I'm not sure. Can't tell with
Oh,
the
by the
mask.
way, Barbara Lee and Pramila Jayapal both voted yes on this. Just to let you guys know. She was hugging Pramila Jayapal, though, at some point.
She was hugging every single member of the squad and their little leftiest goons.
Just a reminder, both Pramila Jayapal and AOC were crying. And Pramila Jayapal voted yes on it. So did AOC. So apparently they were upset. I'm sorry, AOC voted present. Pramila Jayapal, Barbara Lee voted yes. Because we showed you all the no votes, and then we show you the two present votes, right? So why are you crying? You literally just voted. Why are you crying? Like, are you being, people were like, well, maybe they were being bullied. I don't care. I don't care. Bullied. This is your fucking job. If you can't handle it, get the hell out. It's that simple. You're voting to fund more death to Palestinians. End of story. That's really what this is about. And I'm going to get into exactly why it's hypocritical of AOC to vote present, because she said that she didn't agree with any sort of present vote ever. She said it multiple fucking times. She went after Tulsi Gabbard
for that one.
Yeah, so we're going to go into that.
Vote.
But I just wanted to point this out as we get into that part of this whole debate, that the votes for funding the Iron Dome, there's been multiple times where the squad has changed their votes after he talked with Mama Bear. Multiple times. We saw it with the police funding bill to give more money to Capitol Police. Freaking AOC and I forget who else. They changed their votes to present as well.
Yeah.
Now there's been multiple times now where AOC has voted present when she previously said she didn't want to vote present. That present was a cop-out, basically. Yeah. When Tulsi Gabbard did it on an impeachment, she went after her hard. Now, this is what I believe, and I've talked to others about this. Misty, I think. They take turns. Oftentimes voting on some good bills, and oftentimes voting just enough in line with the establishment so they're okay, right? Stop being fooled, right, with some of the performative theatrics that are happening with the squad.
It's professional wrestling. It's sometimes you're going to lose, sometimes you're going to win, sometimes it's going to be a disqualification by the referee, but they understand what's going on. It's a controlled environment, it's a controlled atmosphere, and they understand the results at the end. I mean, it's fucked up.
So I wanted to point this out as well, because a lot of people were giving AOC accolades for it's the public citizen tweet. Oh, sorry. You already played it, though. That was the AOC crying video. So more performance. The AOC introduced with Mark Pocan an amendment on behalf of Rep. Mark Pocan to reduce the Pentagon budget by 10%.
Yeah.
Okay. So they did this. Mark Pocan just voted yes on the Iron Dome, by the way. He is one of the biggest like sellouts. He's part of the Progressive Caucus. He's anti-BDS, just so you know. So this is her introducing an amendment on behalf of Mark McCann, right, to reduce the budget. Like, let's hear what she has to say.
I rise today to offer Amendment 40 to reduce the Pentagon budget by 10%. During a time when our country is withdrawing from foreign wars, when COVID-19 and its fallout is one of the greatest threats that we face, when record levels of unemployment, housing, and healthcare crises are among us, the United States should be reducing its military spending by at least 10% and prioritize the very needs of our communities here at home. Today, we can cut the defense authorization by 10% without any need to deny our service members or their families any of the support that they need. And in doing so, we can free up to $77 billion to go towards fighting the COVID-19 pandemic and much more. Mr. Speaker, I urge support of this amendment, and I reserve the balance of my time. I rise today to offer Amendment 40.
Okay, so is this a good thing that people should be doing? Absolutely. People should be doing, introducing legislation like this. I've said, AOC hasn't introduced legislation that is anti-war. It's kind of ironic that she introduced this legislation around September 22nd, and then a day later, pretty much voted to give more money to Israel, essentially, right? Because the present vote is it is, in this instance in particular, it's absolutely a cop-out, because she didn't need to do that. She changed her vote from no to present.
It looks like it was on the same day, though, because she's wearing like the same thing. I don't know.
I mean, it may have been. Maybe she's wearing the same jacket. I don't know. But it's really weird. This is what I'm saying. Like, on one end, you introduce legislation to stand against, to cut down the Pentagon budget, which is not going to pass, by the way. 10%, it's not going to pass. So we know this is performative. We know at least she's taking I'll give her that. At least she's taking the initiative. But when she has a chance to actually vote on something that's direct funding for the empire, that's her stance. The present stance has become her go-to, right? So I just wanted to point that out, because a lot of people were like, oh, she's doing this, but simultaneously, look what else she's doing. And so why does this matter? Why does this matter? Like, why does it matter why she did what she did? So this is something right there. An article talking from August 22nd, talking about the redistricting of AOC. So, of her district, right? So they say congressional redistricting in New York may force Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district out of Queens and into Westchester. There it is. Jabal Bauman had a comment on it as well. A possible redistricting scenario for New York, according to Dave Wasserman at the Cook Political Report, with New York 14 AOC moving into North Westchester. That's where she lived for the longest time, which is weird. So Jamal Bauman's reaction after taking a look at the possible redistricting, which would have him move him into Rockland and Orange counties and out of the Bronx. So it's kind of interesting that this is happening now, now in the context of she's protecting her career, or like she doesn't want to upset the Jewish
She's signaling to
population.
Future voters.
Exactly. That's what she's doing.
She's signaling to future voters.
Now, I get it, right? Like, I get it that your district, a lot of people have said, for example, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's district, there's a huge Jewish population. There are certain things you can't get away with. You know what? I'm done with that, because if that's going to mean that you push imperialist policy, then you're going to make caveats. You're going to make exceptions at every other turn for something else. So this isn't about AOC's career, right? This isn't about AOC's career. Let's point that out. This is about the fact that these people hold the power to make laws, to legislate, right? She said it herself. You come here to legislate. You come here to take, to make laws. Well, if you're just going to stand by and wash your hands like Pontius Pilate as this is happening, and not take a stand, what's the difference between you and the dude you replaced? What's the difference? I don't care about your career aspirations. I really don't. We shouldn't give two shits about her career aspirations, because if she's going to vote in line with the establishment at the end of the day in matters of war, which is like the number one, like our imperialism is literally like the number one issue, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't care about her career aspirations if she gets reelected or what. At least she's fighting against the establishment. Why do you think people like Cynthia McKinney are no longer in Congress? Like, this is no longer about that. I don't know if you have anything to say regarding that.
No. Good.
And I just wanted to point out Emma Vigilant's tweet, because this is exactly what I'm talking about here. We can note that it's probably why she voted present, but it doesn't fucking matter. I don't give a shit about her career aspirations, right? This is the whole fucking neoliberal bullshit. We may never know the full extent of the deal making behind AOC's present vote on the Iron Dome. But it's notable that Bauman also voted yes, while someone like Presley, who I'd say is less progressive than both of them, voted no. My guess is New York State redistricting and funding. Sure, okay, but again, like, it doesn't matter, because for me, it's like, at the end of the day, if you're making excuses for progressive politicians voting for more imperialist legislation that will lead to the death of innocent civilians because of some sort of worry for their next career move, we have absolutely lost the plot. Because this is not about AOC's fucking career, Bauman's career, or any of that. This is about really standing up for really what we need to be standing up for. This is about the war machine. This is about opposing U.S. imperialism. If you run on these policies of being a leftist socialist fighter against the status quo imperialism, and then you just give in, then you're not who you say you were. And it's as simple as that. I don't give a shit about her district. She needs to fucking do what is right on matters of war. Yeah. Period.
And they're not going to. Let's be honest right now. It's all theater at this point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that pretty much hits it on the nose. That's why Bauman did vote the way he did, is because he's worried about his new district and the people who's going to vote for him and stuff like that. And I think that's what Nancy was doing. Say, listen, if they go back and look at this vote and they see you voted no on this,
right,
this is going to cost you votes. At least move to present. I
There's
don't want to.
There's also rumors that she is likely to run for Senate, so this would ruin her chances of doing that. But again, I don't give a shit about that. We need, like,
That's
do you think
what
the
they
vast
say,
majority?
though. That's
do you
not
think
true.
the vast majority of Americans, if like are going to be so upset that you denied $1 billion to Israel when people are fucking suffering here in America?
Yeah.
Come
you
on.
could just easily bring it home and say,
the
I want to bring that
Bronx?
to the streets of the Bronx. Right?
That's
the way
thing.
you sell it.
And why not fight the redistricting? Why say, why are you changing my district? Why are you changing my district? Why? Like, why do you allow them to control you?
They're going to say it's the census coming in, and that's why they have to redistrict
bullshit
and whatnot. It's the way they redistrict is the question, too, as well.
They obviously do it to keep their interests
Yeah.
in line. Like, it's obvious. So Glenn Greenwald went after AOC for many of the things that we're going after her now. I wanted to point out this first video, perhaps the second one, but he said Tulsi, she denounced Tulsi Gabbard's present vote on Trump's impeachment, which we just mentioned. And so let's hear what he had to say, because he pretty much called her out on her hypocrisy.
He attacked Tulsi Gabbard, not just for voting president on impeachment, but voting president at all. Something she said no Congress member should do. Here is what AOC did in condemning Tulsi Gabbard's present vote on impeachment. The headline says, "We are sent here to lead." AOC hammers Tulsi Gabbard for voting present. And the article reads, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez chided House colleague Tulsi Gabbard for refusing to vote in favor or against President Trump's impeachment. She said, quote, "Today was very consequential, and not to take a stand one way or another on a day of such great consequence to this country, I think is quite difficult. We are sent here to lead." And then she added that she doesn't just mean it's wrong to vote present on impeachment. She means it's wrong anytime to vote present. This is what she said. Whenever we have a vote, we should vote yes and we should vote no. Voting present is a very tough position to be in. So my first question for the Democratic Congresswoman from New York is, how can she reconcile her condemnation of a present vote when it came to Tulsi Gabbard's doing that in the context of impeachment, how can she reconcile saying whenever we have a vote, we should vote yes and we should vote no, with what the stunt she pulled today of first voting no, but then making sure that she wasn't a no vote, was only a present vote, so that for future runs in New York for Senate or governor, no one can ever say she voted no to deny Israel additional funding for its military. How can you reconcile what she said here with what she did today? That's my first question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's a hypocrite.
We remember when we did cover this, because I was very, very
we
upset
did.
when Tulsi Gabbard was voting yes on impeachment. I thought the anti-regime change war candidate...
She voted present on impeachment.
No, in the beginning. I'm talking about when
Tulsi
they did their
Gabbard,
first little
not
bullshit. Like she was for the going into it, and then when they did their final vote, she voted present, and I was like, thank you very much,
Right.
Tulsi, for sticking, at least voting present and stuff like that.
Right.
The regime change candidate, the anti-regime change candidate, shouldn't be voting yes on impeachment in Ukraine when it's these people in the chambers who have kind of pushed for a regime change, revolutionary war in the Ukraine, which caused so much death and chaos, to then point the finger at Donald Trump and say he should be impeached for a phone call. I was very strong about that. So, I mean, but yes, that's what AOC did. She came out. She was like, you should never do this.
But
this
it was
is wrong.
it was a symbolic bullshit. It was symbolic hyper-partisan bullshit. The impeachment whole thing.
Yeah.
It was a non-issue. It was a fucking symbolic theater. That's all it was.
Yeah.
This was an actual vote that mattered, like a stance. Like,
This
are
is
you
about
going to
money,
take
right.
an anti-war stance
Yeah.
or are you not?
The impeachment thing was like something to distract the public. 'cause,
Exactly.
Like, it was such bullshit, and like they're putting all this energy and stuff, and then in the background, and the media was focusing on it and everything.
Yeah.
In the background, other bills were being,
Yeah.
if they were even being brought to the floor or even being written,
Yep.
there was a lot of focus on that.
Yeah.
So
And it shifted focus on what Donald Trump did in this phone call, and it got away from what really happened with the Democrats, with people like Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, what they did in the Ukraine and the part they played. And that's the thing that just drove me fucking crazy at that particular vote, though. But
And just the second part I want to play is, again, we covered this, the police vote, the
Yeah.
Capitol Police money funding.
Yep.
The squad had agreed to vote no with the GOP. But then they spoke to Nancy Pelosi again and then changed her vote to present. So let's just play a little bit of this. And
one of those was AOC vote no, but voted present again. This is not the first time she did this after condemning Tulsi Gabbard for doing it. And the other time that she did it was highly consequential. Let me show you what happened. So in May of 2021, just a few months ago, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi demanded $2 billion in an increase for the Capitol Police, for more security, on the grounds that what happened on January 6th and the ongoing threat, as she put it, from the Trump movement means we have to give more money to the police. And the vote passed by one vote. Here's an article that I wrote on that day that was about the fact that the squad, all 6 of them, had originally said they were going to vote no, and that at the last minute, 3 of them, including AOC, changed their votes to present. She voted present, neither yes nor no, which is what allowed Pelosi's bill to pass. And the article from CNBC describes what happens. The House passed a $1.9 billion U.S. Capitol security bill Thursday as Congress splinters over how to protect lives and the democratic process after the January 6th insurrection. The Democratic-held chamber approved the measure by the thinnest of margins a day after it passed a bill to set up an independent commission to investigate the attack on the legislature. Opposition from Republican leaders has raised doubts about whether either proposal can get through the evenly split Senate. The House cleared the security funding in a 213 to 212 vote, while 3 representatives voted present. So it passed by one vote, and 3 of them voted present, and one of those was AOC.
AOC. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go. She's a hypocrite. She's been
Yeah.
This isn't the first time.
And I want to point out, fam, too,
Yeah.
as well. This is like, once again, it's not like a symbolic vote, whatnot, because we also knew that if it got through the House for impeachment, it was dead on arrival in the Senate. Wasn't going to work.
Right.
They already knew that. They were doing it with symbolic, whatnot. But this particular bill, when it comes to the $1.9 billion, when it comes to the Capitol Police, it's not for like saying you can't even kind of like maneuver this in a positive way and say, oh, it's for police departments to get more money for screening, for psychological screening, so they don't hire a racist, or more money for actual training, so police won't have to pull to their gun, they can use their words and stuff. No, it was about Capitol Police, and a lot of the money that was in that Capitol Police bill was to protect themselves, to give them private security
Increase
for
salaries.
themselves.
Increase
right?
salaries, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
For them fucking selves. And in this particular situation, her present vote, along with her cohorts, allowed this bill to go through.
Exactly.
So it was much more detrimental.
It was extremely detrimental. And again, it was hypocritical because she had just been done arguing against police brutality in 2020 during the George Floyd protests, saying we need to decrease the police funding. She was, talking about Black Lives Matter and defunding the police at every turn in New York. She was happy that they reduced the police budget by, I think it was $1 billion in New York at that time. And she said it didn't go far enough, though. She said it didn't go far enough. And she spoke about how this, we need to do more than this. Then she went and voted for more police funding for herself, because that's what these people are. They see themselves as above you. They're supposed to be public servants. They're supposed to serve you, but they see the writing on the wall. They see that people are upset. They want to protect themselves from anybody that's going to oppose them or protest them. So it's the rules for thee and not for me. Yet once again coming into play. That is the problem with people like AOC and people like the Squad. They're not fucking consistent. They play team sports, they play party politics, and they will take care of themselves before they actually do what is the right thing to do. And I just wanted to end with this meme. Vote present for Iron Dome, because look, we I wasn't criticizing her dress because I just wanted to hate on AOC, but it's because of more of that symbolic bullshit. Right? It's more of the symbolic bullshit. Tax the rich. But I'm going to continue to do absolutely nothing for the working class, to push incrementalism, things that I didn't actually ran against. I mean, things that like Medicare for all, minimum wage, all this bullshit. She hasn't done shit to push that. So again, it's not about the fucking dress. It's about the symbolic theatrics that AOC pushes. It's about the fact that she's an actress. She's an Instagram influencer. She is not acting as a congresswoman, as a public servant. And she's not the only one. The whole fucking progressive caucus is a fucking joke. They don't do anything progressive. They don't stand for anything. They haven't done shit. And if they banded together, they very damn well could. They're bigger than the fucking Tea Party was. But they refuse because they're somehow bullied by fucking 80-year-old Nancy Pelosi. Are you kidding me? Like, come on. Oh, but she's bullied. I don't give a shit. If you don't have the cojones to go in there and be brave and do what needs to be done, get out. Get the fuck out. That's it. End of story.
Theater, ladies and gentlemen. Theater. Johnny, what else you got?
But she's our ally.
she aligns more with our ideology, so why are we going to piss on her?
We shouldn't be hating on our allies.
Exactly. I mean, Mitch McConnell and
Please
Lindsey
show me
Graham.
how she's been an ally, and then we can talk. Just show me how she's been an ally.